locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves wrestling.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Welcome back. That's right, Jack. It is Duke Loves Rasslin, the show about pro wrestling and everything else. I am the man of the hour, the man with the power too sweet to be sour, Jack. Boy, you know what's crazy? We went through the whole exercise of WrestleMania weekend, WrestleMania week, really, and all of the changes that happened then. And you would think after the first Raw and the first SmackDown of the WWE fiscal year, which is right after WrestleMania, you would think that that would allow us an opportunity to catch our collective breaths, right? As Stone Cold Steve Austin used to say, My goodness, this past week with the Superstar Shakeup has been just off the charts, man. I mean, I don't even know what to say other than it's been amazing. And we're going to go over the results of the Superstar Shakeup. In fact, I'm going to be doing an extended version of Run the Ropes, just so you can get caught up on who is going to be where and you know where you can check them out. We also have a special guest this week, a guy by the name of Ken Ray, a.k.a. Stix. He's going to share some information about his amazing life. You know, he's a pro wrestling commentator. He does some background stuff. He's even dabbled a little bit in radio, so it'll be interesting to talk to Stix and hear what he has to say about everything. But before we get to any of that stuff, I got to give a shout out. I got to give a birthday shout out to two of Middle Kingdom Wrestling China, two of their biggest stars. I'm talking about the man, Len Bai. That's right, my brother Ray there, and also Big Sam. That's right, Big Sam Burgess out of England, who wrestles in China. Both of these guys have birthdays on the same day. They're celebrating all month long, though, and they're two great guys. You know, I've had the pleasure of getting to know both of them over the past few years. So, happy birthday, fellas. I hope you enjoy yourselves. Hope you eat a lot of great cake. I know Len Bai got a bunch of great gifts from his girlfriend, and Big Sam, he had a cake that was made that looked exactly like him. In fact, I'll post that on the Duke Loves Rasslin Facebook and Twitter pages so you folks can see that. It's pretty interesting. But shout out, fellas. Happy birthday. Make it a good one. And with that said, I'm not even going to belabor the point here. Run the ropes. It's time to run the ropes. It's when I give my opinion on the top stories in the world of professional wrestling. Let's go.
Well, I'll tell you what I think.
Listen, there's nothing more important than the Superstar Shakeup that just happened here. So I'm going to be dancing and dabbling in and out of some of the changes that happened during the Shakeup and how that affects the overall product. But let me cover a few things before then. So first and foremost, Big E Langston, you know, our brother from the New Day, this guy shredded his meniscus. Okay? He tore his knee up. He's going to be out. Big E is going to be out for a number of months, which is unfortunate. So anyone who was watching SmackDown Live this past week, I'm sure you noticed that Big E wasn't there. And as a result, a new honorary member of the New Day, Kevin Owens. Mr. Canada himself, Kevin Owens, he was gyrating his hips. He was eating dry pancakes. He was doing all he could to fill in for the man, Big E. So that was pretty crazy, pretty wild. But we hope you get well, Big E, because, you know, tearing up the knee is definitely not something, especially for a big guy who's so agile as Big E is. That's just a terrible thing to see. Speaking of injuries, Sheamus, you know, the man that my mom loves because he's so white, he's bright. Sheamus has a concussion, so he also wasn't able to participate this past week on SmackDown Live, which was unfortunate. Sheamus, I mean, he's been around for a little while now, folks. A lot of miles in that body, and he's a tough dude. I mean, even with his bad back, he's been doing his DDP yoga, so he's come back from a potentially career-ending back injury, but he got a concussion, so he's going to have to take some time off and get his head straight and hopefully come back 100%. So, shout out to Sheamus as well. We hope you get better, brother. I enjoy booing you, so we need you back in the ring so I can do that. That's right. Check this out. Luke Harper has requested his release from the WWE. Luke Harper. So this poor guy, he really hasn't been the same since the Wyatt family has broken up. And I mean, he had his run with the Bludgeon Brothers thing that he was doing with Rowan. They became tag team champions and all that good stuff, but it just didn't work out. So Harper has requested his release. He's going to take a gamble on himself, get back there on the indies and see what he can do. And hey, I don't blame the dude, man. I mean, WWE is very top heavy right now. There is just so much talent, and they're constantly adding more and more. And quite frankly, these super juniors, as we used to call them, these cruiserweights, these 205 livers, whatever you want to call these guys, they're really populating the entire company there. They're stepping it up. I mean, you look at a guy like Kofi Kingston, he is not the prototypical WWE superstar as far as size is. You look at Daniel Bryan, same concept. Finn Balor, same concept. So, it's a small man's game right now, and a big guy like Luke Harper, I mean, he could be a monster in the right situation. But so it's really unfortunate they weren't able to figure out what to do with him. But hey, man, I don't blame you. Go back out there on the indies, make your bones. Who knows? Maybe AEW will have a room for you. New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling. There's so many places that this guy could go and make a name for himself. And I hope it happens, So shout out to Luke Harper. Wishing you nothing but the best, my man. And speaking of which, I got to tell you, the Raw and SmackDown Superstar shakeups were so crazy. They were so nuts. There were so many things that happened. First and foremost, they broke up two groups. I mean, Sanity. They broke up Sanity. So they took Eric Young, and they're going to put him out there on his own. And Eric Young is a very versatile individual. He's very entertaining. He can be a heel. He can be the lovable baby face. He can be something in between. He's kind of nuts. But, yeah, they took him out of Sanity. And they also, which I can't believe this, they took Liv Morgan out of the Riot Squad. So the Riot Squad is no more. So, it's really strange. It's like, why are you going to break up stables? Why do that? Huh? Why? I don't agree with it. And my good friends Vincent Kennedy McMahon, I'm going to have a talk with him about it because I'm not happy about breaking up stables. I think it makes sense to keep certain units together. You have a group like the Riot Squad, there's no reason to split them up. Seriously. It works. And Ruby Riott, she's fantastic, and I like Sarah Logan, and Liv Morgan has definitely benefited from being with those two, so, it's unfortunate. And with Sanity, I mean, Killian Dane, who knows what's going to happen to him. The other guy who was part of the group, he just got released completely, so, that is what it is. It just, terrible to see. Over on Raw, the War Raiders, okay? So these were the guys who were War Machine on the indies. They were Ring of Honor champions and all that good stuff there. They got a name change. They got some kind of weird the Viking Experience is the name of the group now, which, what the hell is that? I don't even know what that is. But they're going to be known as Eric and Ivar. So they just got a complete name change for some strange reason there. Allegedly, Vince McMahon doesn't like the word war. He thinks it's barbaric and archaic. So as a result of that, he doesn't want the word war involved with anything he has going on. Okay. But I mean, that's not a good enough reason to change their names. The Viking Experience? Huh? I don't even get it. It's weird. It's weird. Anyway, let's start off with Raw. So as I said, the War Raiders, aka the new Viking Experience, they're over on Raw. Cedric Alexander, he's on Raw now. So, shout out to Ced. No more 205 Live. He's officially on the Raw roster. Eric Young is on Raw, so, Sanity is no more. He's been split from them. Lacey Evans, or as Becky Lynch calls her, Charlotte number 2. It's funny though, it's Becky laid it out. She said that Lacey Evans is from the Carolinas. She does a moonsault. She has blonde hair. She has big boobs. She's Charlotte number 2. But nothing is better than the original, as we all know. So that's a whole other story. But Lacey Evans is on Raw. EC3. What the heck's going on with EC3? They can't figure out what to do with this poor guy. He's on Raw. Hopefully that allows him some opportunities, because that's pretty unfortunate the way that he's been treated thus far since coming back to the WWE. Naomi's been traded to Raw. So fresh start for her. Hopefully that's a good thing. The Usos, they're going to remain a tag team, and now they're on Raw. So shout out to that. Rey Mysterio is on Raw. The veteran, the legend, probably be in the Hall of Fame next year. Zelina Vega is on Raw, which means Andrade. He's been traded to Raw as well, so shout out to those two. That's pretty cool. Aleister Black, who, behind the scenes, he's Zelina Vega's husband. He's been traded to Raw. So we're going to keep that family together, just like we're keeping Jey Uso together with Naomi. They're married. Ricochet is on Raw. The Miz is on Raw. And the biggest acquisition, AJ Styles, has been traded to Raw. So things are going to get pretty interesting on the red brand there. Especially when you have Seth Rollins, who's the Universal Champion. I mean, boy, that's going to get pretty interesting. I can already see some potential matchups there against AJ, The Miz, possibly Ricochet, of course, Aleister Black, Andrade, who's my pick. Andrade is going to be the most value. He's going to be the MVP this upcoming year. I got a feeling about Andrade. I think he is one of the most underrated talents in the business. And that dude, he's going to tear it up. I got a feeling about him. So you watch out for them. So that was the deal with Raw. Now over on SmackDown, it got even more interesting. Otis and Tucker, the guys who are known as Heavy Machinery, they're going to be on SmackDown. Mickie James, the legend, she's going to be on SmackDown. Apollo Crews. We need to see more Apollo Crews out there. I mean, Jesus. Give me more Apollo Crews, please. He's going to be on SmackDown, so he gets a fresh start. Chad Gable, SmackDown. I wonder what that's going to do to Bobby Roode. Liv Morgan is on SmackDown, and that's without her Riot Squad partners. So, hey, we'll see what happens with her. Buddy Murphy, another one who has been taken from 205 Live. Buddy Murphy is going to be on SmackDown Live from now on. This blue chipper, this new guy here, Lars Sullivan. This Lars Sullivan guy, he's interesting. He claims that he is going to be WWE champion within the next 18 months, and that's a goal that is attainable. Now, I'm not here to knock anybody's goals. Hey, sometimes you have to put it out in the universe, and then gives you something to strive for to make it happen. But can you learn the difference between a wrist lock and a wristwatch before you start claiming you're going to be champion there, big man? I mean, you still don't even know what to do with your what is your gimmick? You're just the guy who goes out there and beats people up, which that's fine, but there's got to be a little more to you than that. I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Sid Vicious, except he doesn't know how to take his time like Sid Vicious did. He doesn't know how to laugh like a maniac like Sid Vicious did. If Lars Sullivan figures that out, there's going to be something there. Watch some Sid Vicious, Lars, and maybe you can get on the proper level there, big man. And good luck in your your goal of becoming champion in the next 18 months. We'll see. Who knows? We'll see. Kairi Sane. She is joining SmackDown Live. So she got called up from NXT. And what's interesting about that is she has been paired with Asuka. So Kairi Sane and Asuka, they're going to be managed by Paige. They're the new tag team that she brought in. So that will be interesting to see. And obviously they're going to be feuding with the Iconics right away. So pretty cool there to see. Although I will admit, I'm a little disappointed that Asuka is just going to be in a tag team. If they would have brought Io Shirai up and made them a stable, that would make a little more sense to me. Because I do feel that Asuka should continue to be a single, but who knows? Maybe they can make it work. Who knows? Ember Moon has been added to SmackDown, so this could be a fresh start for her. Bayley has been added to SmackDown, and she claims she's now going to be a singles wrestler, so no more tag team with Sasha Banks. No more boss and hug connection there. So see how that goes. Finn Balor, the Intercontinental Champion, he is on SmackDown. Now that's interesting. That's really interesting. So is he going to be challenging Kofi Kingston? We'll see. Vince McMahon's biggest acquisition, according to him, Elias. Elias joined SmackDown. But who comes out and lays Elias out and then for good measure knocks out Vince McMahon on top of it? That punk, my arch nemesis, Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns joined SmackDown Live as well. Oh boy. Oh boy. Are you gonna ruin my life? Are you gonna ruin my life and have Roman Reigns be the person to defeat Kofi Kingston and take that belt off of him? Because that would just really just disgust me. Can I say that to everybody? I would personally be disgusted if Roman Reigns beats Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. Okay? I'm not afraid to say that. I would be disgusted. So you heed my words there, Roman. Watch yourself. And if I was Xavier Woods, I would start, get a chair, get a pipe, get a 2x4, kendo stick, get a truck, get whatever you need. You protect Kofi Kingston and that WWE Championship, okay? Do it. Do it. Do it. Because we can't have this punk Roman Reigns stepping in and thinking that he's just going to take the belt back. It ain't going to happen. Not on my watch. Get it together. That's right.
That's pretty much it.
You've heard what I think. Now, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm a jerk? Maybe something in between. Head over to Facebook. Head over to Twitter. Type in Duke Loves Rasslin and let me know. Up next, my exclusive chat with the man known as Stix.
This is Alexa. And this is Brianna. And we're Sugar and Spice. And you're listening to Duke Loves Wrestling.
They call me Stix. I am the world's most famous plaything, coming at you live, large, and in charge. To the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast. This is your Stix.
You know, we've had some interesting intros on this show, and I gotta say, Stix, that might be right up there with some of the best there. What the heck was that?
Oh man, it's just something I came up with. You know, I do my Stix Fix videos on Facebook and Instagram, and it stemmed from, you know, leaving the radio business, and I needed something after my father passed away to as an outlet to be creative, and I just came up with the idea to just start doing videos, and that was an intro that I just came up with generically. So that's where it came from.
Now listen, you don't have to be coy about this. Talking about leaving the radio business. The band Stix is an internationally known super rock group, and it has been for so many years. So you don't have to talk about the radio business as if you haven't been played on the radio. Tell us about Stix, man.
Yeah, man. Years as a drummer for the band. Nah, man, I'm kidding. Get out of here with that garbage. That's not how I got the name. But
so you're not part of the band?
No. In fact, that's why I spell it differently. I spell it with an I instead of a Y on purpose. In fact, when I got the name, I wanted to not be associated with the band, but it's funny what people think and how many times I've been associated with it.
Well, this really annoys me, and forgive me for a second to our loyal listeners here. The Boston Bad Boy, who like I said, he's spending time looking over the Mueller report, so he didn't make it on time, and I'm not going to wait for him. That's why we just recording without him this week. He told me he was going to have the drummer from Stix on the show this week. So you're telling me that you're not the drummer from Stix? I
am not. Neil Peart and I are not the same person.
Okay. So then, who the hell are you? Because this entire time, I thought that, this guy at that indie promotion down in Florida, Go Wrestle, is the guy from Stix, and that he booked the guy from Stix on the show, and now you're telling me that you're not the guy from Stix.
Brother, I'm way better. I got him beat in spades. So, just a little about me. I'm a Florida kid with a Chicago state of mind, and I was adopted at a young age and brought into a family where I was encouraged to try new things and do whatever I wanted. I kind of got my jump in the entertainment business in radio, and did a radio show for a rock station here in Daytona for many, many years. And then some business things happened and things changed, and found myself out of a job. And, I was, at a time, I worked for gyms and sold personal training and sold memberships and sold bathtubs for a while, but,
Wow. Wait. You can't gloss over that one. You sold bathtubs?
Yeah, the bathtubs with the doors, that for older folks and folks with disabilities. I sold those for about a year.
Hold on a second there, big time. When I go to a fancy hotel, I like to have the bathtubs with the doors, and I'm not an older folks, so you got to watch your mouth there, big time. There. Wait 1 second here. Drake. I just read a funny article with the rapper Drake. He bought like some huge slab of some kind of precious, I think it was marble or something like that, and the company carved out a bathtub out of this big block of marble. So like they had to use like a crane or something like that to bring it into his house, and then they carved it and set it up right then and there. So were you doing stuff like that?
Well, similar, not as high quality materials, but yeah, basically what I did was we would get warm leads from people from our website who are interested in the product, and I would talk with them, and based on their physical needs or medical limitations, we would set up a consultation. They would go out, measure the bathroom, and then custom build a bathroom based on that.
Oh, okay. So you weren't the guy who was cutting the marble.
No. No, I like to work out, but physical labor is not my thing.
All right. So you got kicked out of the band Stix. You got kicked out of the bathtub business. So now you're the voice of Go Wrestle of all things. I hope you don't get kicked out of that too. Tell us about Go Wrestle.
Go Wrestle is probably one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. It's a promotion out of Daytona Beach, and we do weekly shows every Friday night, and we post them online. And the group of people that we work with, the talent roster that we have, is incredible. Some of these kids, I don't even know how they don't have NXT deals right now, to be honest, if I'm being real. We've got some great tag teams. You've got Task Force, Culture Inc., The Patriarchy. You've got single stars like Marc-Andre Sebire, who we call the Fighting Frenchman. This guy puts on matches that are just amazing. And then, you've got some of the newer talent like Kathleen and Eliza, these two young ladies who are learning the business, but every week they go out and have a match, and they show what they've learned, and it gets better and better every week.
Now we know that folks like Sophia Castile and even the young professor, they're down there at Go Wrestle. So it's a promotion that I never heard of until recently, and it's amazing because now suddenly I just see them everywhere. Everywhere.
And that's the cool thing is we just had our 3-year anniversary, and our 100th show, which is kind of unheard of in I hate to use the word indie, but indie promotions. It was really cool to be a part of. We had a fatal 5-way tables, ladders, chairs, kendo sticks match for the tag team titles, and myself and the young professor who do the commentary every week, we got to sit ringside and watch this magic happen. It was really cool.
Now, this young professor, he fancies himself an expert on trivia. Is that just a gimmick, or does he really know what he's talking about?
That's his life, man. That's his life. He legitimately does trivia almost every night of the week in different parts of the city. He holds trivia contests at local, restaurants and bars, and he has a title belt a world heavyweight title belt that he gives to the winners, and they get to take a photo with it, and it's legit, man.
Listen, Stix, hear me out. I got connections in radio, so let's make a deal here. All right, how about this? If I can get you back into the band Stix, I want you to give me all the answers to whatever trivia thing the young professor has going on, and I'm going to walk in and get the belt. It's a fair trade. You get back into the band, I get the belt, everybody wins.
I don't know, brother. I don't want to. All right, I'll tell you what. On the side, between you and me, we'll figure it out. I'll send you the answer sheets. We'll go from there.
See that? That's how you call making a deal. I'm telling you, some of these folks in Washington can learn a thing or two from us. Now listen, you're down in Florida, which is legitimately the mecca of pro wrestling right now. There are so many different wrestling companies doing things in the state of Florida. It's unbelievable. How does that feel, being in a position where you're a commentator for a promotion where at any point in time somebody from the big boys could be watching what you're doing?
That hasn't hit me. I'm not at a point where I feel big time at all. I had the chance to be successful in other arenas, so my ego was big at a point, but after that was all taken away, I kind of learned to put the ego away because it's not important. I think I'm in a position right now where each and every week I get to be around people where I learn the business, learn different ways to do things, figure out different ways to tell a story, and be creative in the business that I love. And actually, I'm watching it right now. Actually, I got a chance to go to NXT tapings last week for the first time, and see how they do things on a larger level. And it was really, really cool just to have that piece of understanding. I'm a nerd when it comes to wrestling. When it comes to the business, I just want to know everything about it. And having the opportunity to now call myself a part of the business is really a big honor for me. And of course, the goal is to make it to the top because that's just how my mind works. But however this works out, wherever it goes, it's been an absolute blessing.
That's interesting. And you're a commentator. So back in high school, I did some sports commentating when I wasn't playing. I do this podcast, but I've never commentated an actual pro wrestling event. Talk to us about some tips. Let's say that I want to get started. I want to commentate my first wrestling event. What are some tips that can help somebody just starting off be a little more successful than they would be on their own?
I think there is definitely an art to spoken word. I think one of the things that people who want to get in the game should know is it's more than just saying a sentence. I learned this in broadcasting. You can say something 100 different ways, and it means 100 different things. So understanding vocabulary, understanding inflection, understanding and timing, cadence, all of that is what makes a good call, you know, and being able to use your eyes and then use your mind simultaneously to come up with something creative to help tell the story in the ring, whatever's happening in front of you. I think the ability to let go of fear of being creative, just saying something to help put over the match or put over the talent, is important too. You have to take yourself outside of the box and not be afraid to live there. You know, does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense, and that's interesting. Have you ever had a time when you were calling a match where things just weren't going the way that you anticipated or that you hoped they would go, and what are some of the adjustments that you made in order to get back on the right track?
I think a lot of times, sometimes with newer talent or, people that are learning the business, say, for example, they go to hit a move, right, and the move doesn't go off the way that they wanted to, but it's still my job to make you look good, right? That's what a commentator's job is. The commentator's job is to take the match and make it polished so it shines and looks good on camera and sounds good for the viewer. So I think some of the challenges that myself and the professor face when we call matches is if a move doesn't go off according to plan, how do you polish it so that everybody looks good? Because I'm not in the business of squashing anybody. If you're in that ring, you're doing something incredible. And sometimes I get sour when I read things online about fans not liking matches because it didn't go perfectly. Whatever, dude. They're in the ring. They're doing amazing things. The reason you're sitting outside the ring and the reason they're inside the ring is because they got balls enough to get in there and try it. You know what I mean? So I like the ability to try and make everybody look as good as possible because they deserve that respect. I think sometimes it's challenging because, things don't go according to plan, but still being able to focus on the talent or say something about the talent or about the character that they're trying to build can take away from, a botch or a mess up.
Absolutely. We're talking to Stix, one of the voices of Florida indie promotion Go Wrestle. Now, it's just listening to what you said, I mean, you're a guy who worked in the radio business. I still believe that you were the drummer of Stix, but you got kicked out. Now you're the voice of Go Wrestle. You sound like a very motivated person. You sound like a very driven person. Talk to us about that because you're a passionate guy, man. Where does that come from? What motivates you to do the things that you do?
I mean, it comes from a couple different places. First and foremost, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my parents. I was adopted at a very early age. I think I was 10 months. I was taken out of a situation that wasn't good for anybody, and given a home and given love and encouraged to be anything I wanted. And secondly, I was born with cerebral palsy, and I have a mild case, which is why I walk with canes. But I think that mixed with the way that I was raised, my parents were older than most kids my age parents, so I had a very old school upbringing of, rub some dirt on it, man. It's gonna hurt, it's gonna be painful, it's gonna be hard, but you can get through it. And you mix that with the surgeries that I've had and the physical therapy and everything else, and times where I was picked on or whatever, and I never wanted to be one of those people that just sat on the couch and felt sorry for myself. I've had times in my life where life has beaten me down and I have felt sorry for myself. But luckily for me, I don't let them last too long because that's just not how I'm wired,
Wow, that's it. Now, educate us, please, Stix. What is cerebral palsy? And you said that you walk around with canes now. Explain to us what that condition is and how that affects your ability to walk.
Okay, so cerebral palsy comes in, they have 4 different stages of cerebral palsy. I have something called spastic diplegia, which is essentially my brain constantly sending signals to my muscles to stay tight as opposed to relax. So my form of cerebral palsy affects my balance and my hand-eye coordination and, finer motor skills like handwriting. My handwriting's atrocious. I had occupational therapy where I learned to do simple things like zip a zipper or, work with buttons or, just small things that you inherently know how to do. My brain doesn't always tell my body to do correctly. Simple things can be very difficult for me, just doing, regular stuff. Sometimes that's why I don't tie my shoes. My shoes have been tied one time. I know how, but it's easier for me to just tie my shoes one time and then slip my shoes on because it saves time. You know what I mean? Little things like that, or like I drive with hand controls, because I don't have enough muscle control to drive safely with my feet. I can drive a go-kart with my feet, I can drive a golf cart, but a car, it's much safer for me to have hand controls because I have more muscle control in the top half of my body than I do in the lower half.
That just completely fascinates the heck out of me right now. You drive with hand controls.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like driving a plane. So on my steering wheel, I have a knob, like a trucker knob that they use to turn. And then underneath my turn signal on the left-hand side by the door, there's a bar that comes out, and it's a handle. And to accelerate, I pull down on the handle, and then to brake, I push forward. So while I drive, both my hands are busy. And it's really, for me, the only way to drive, because that's how I was trained. I went to classes for it. I tried to drive with my feet one time, and it scared the absolute hell out of me.
That just blows my mind, man. I can't even imagine. And like you said, that's the only way you know how to drive because that's how you were taught from the beginning. So it's
right.
It's clockwork for you. Wow, that's amazing. Just the whole thing is just wow. So you say you walk with canes though, so you don't have all this control over your muscles, but you are able to walk.
Yeah, actually, and it came from when I was 4 years old, I had a spinal surgery. It's called selective rhizotomy. And what they do with a surgery like that is you have nerve bundles attached to each one of your limbs, right? Everybody has bundles of nerves attached to each one of their arms and legs. So they went into my spine and they severed 2/3 of each bundle attached to my legs so that essentially I would have more muscle control even with less nerve connection, so that I could tell my legs to work properly. Now you mix that with years, and I'm talking like 12 or 13 years of physical therapy, 4 or 5 times a week, with a couple other surgeries. My hamstrings were extended at one point. I've had eye surgeries to correct my lazy eyes and things like that. And I find myself in a situation where I started with a walker, and then forearm crutches, the crutches with the cuffs, and then now I just use canes because it's just easier. It's just how I like to get around. And I use a wheelchair when I have to. If I do something where I walk a lot, if I go to an amusement park or I go to the mall or whatever, I'll use a wheelchair just for the sake of easiness and comfort. But for the most part, after I graduated high school, I used an electric wheelchair all through high school, but after high school, I pretty much decided I wasn't going to do that anymore, and I just didn't.
Now tell us the truth. You say you walk around with a cane. Have you pimped your cane out? Do you have like special designs or
so
something
check
carved
it.
out in special wood?
right now I have a set of, this is going to sound so funny, but I'll tell you the story behind them. I have a set of leopard print canes, and the only reason I have them is because they're the only ones that could stand up to the abuse that I put canes through. And they were a gift given to me about, I want to say 7 years ago, but from a girlfriend that I had. It was funny, we were actually out to dinner, and my canes that I had at that point broke. A lot of times with canes that are not made right, the handles will snap, and I fall. So, I'm a big guy. I'm pushing 215 right now, and I work out every day, but so the handle snapped off, and we're out, and she ran into a Walgreens, and these were the only ones that were available at the time, and they're the only ones that have held up since, to be honest. I've had other canes and stuff like that, but these are the only ones that can take the beating. And that's not to say at some point I wouldn't like to get some cool ones made, with my logo or whatever, but right now it's what I got.
Well, you got leopard print canes. Who the heck can say they have those?
Right.
that just fits right into it. So let me ask you this, because you really just provided some education right there on a pretty significant disability there. But yet you're, like you said, most of the time you're with your canes. You're not just sitting in a wheelchair asking somebody to move you around. You're pushing yourself pretty hard, and I'm sure at times you may even be going a little too far, but you keep yourself in shape, so that definitely helps. Have you experienced any challenges, especially as it relates to breaking into the wrestling business? Because I've never seen someone who has such a strong disability, with the exception of when Jim Ross had his Bell's palsy, which, I don't even know if that even counts technically. But I've never seen someone with such a serious disability have such an important job in the wrestling business.
I think, essentially it took me years. I've known since I first started wrestling, when I was watching wrestling when I was 12, I was like, I could do this. I could be a part of the show. I could do something, and essentially what I've always wanted to do is manage. I'm one of those people that likes to be in action. I'm a fighter, man. I've taken jiu-jitsu. I like to be physical, right? So essentially what I wanted to be was a manager. And I would talk to schools, and they really wouldn't take me seriously because, cerebral palsy is a big deal and people don't understand it always, and they don't know you as a person, and they don't know your drive, they don't know your focus, they don't know your passion or your understanding of what your limitations are or how you want to push them, right? So I always put it right out there, I have cerebral palsy, I walk with canes, yada yada, and it would never turn into anything. Luckily, a few months ago, I moved back to Florida from Chicago, and I was looking for a wrestling school. I was like, I'm 32. If I'm going to make it happen, it's going to happen now, and I started I put out on Facebook, I was like, any wrestling schools near Daytona, because I know that Florida is now the mecca of professional wrestling, right? So I get a message from a friend. He's like, yeah, you got to hit up my buddy Kyle. He runs Go Wrestle. All right, cool. So I sent him a message, and I tell him the whole deal. He's like, you know what? Come down and meet me, and we'll see. So I went one night when they were having classes, and I just sat around and I talked to everybody, and he and I had a conversation, and he even let me cut a promo. The first night I was there, they were having promo class. He let me jump in and cut a promo. And he was like, you know what? I told him straight up I wasn't working at the time. I didn't really have a lot of money, and I said, I can't really afford training, but I definitely want to be a part of this if you'll let me. And I think he sensed my passion for the business and my will to push myself, and he said, you know what? Just come Friday when we have a show, and I'll find something for you to do. And I started working the bell. That was my job. I was the bell guy, and still, even that I'm calling commentary, I still work the bell. But weeks went on, and weeks turned into a month, and a month turned into 2 months. And he said, I have an idea to record live commentary during the matches. How do you feel about it? I said, absolutely, whatever you want. And it just took off from there.
Wow. Shout out to Kyle over at Go Wrestle, helping you break into the business in such a major opportunity. That's huge. Yeah,
it's absolutely huge, and I'm so grateful just to be around it. You know what I mean? Like, I've always, it's been such a dream to be a part of this business and to be taken seriously, and not just to be, a mascot or on the sidelines or whatever, which is kind of what I've always been told I would be in the business, like, even by people close to me, family members, whatever, like, oh man, it's a pipe dream, but for me, a dream is a dream, and if you put a little energy behind it, it becomes reality. I think, and I used to say this when I was working for a gym, I used to say this, success comes from consistent, enthusiastic effort. I think if you are consistent and you stay focused and you still have passion, and you put effort behind it, anything's possible, whether anybody else believes it or not, because really the only person you need to believe in you is you.
Well said. Do you have any advice for folks within the handicap communities, especially, the same condition that you have? Any advice on how they can continue to push forward like you found a way to do?
I think my best advice, and this is going to sound kind of cold, don't listen to other people. Don't let other people's voices get in your head. I think, especially after my dad died, I started to listen to other people and what they thought my life should be and how they thought I should live and all that stuff. Look, man, if you think you can do something and you want to go out and try it, you might fall flat on your face. I fall almost on a daily basis. Trust me, I get it. But it's not about the fall. It's about the get up. It's about the rise. It's about the ability to learn from the fall. It's about the ability to say, okay, why did I fall? How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? I think that especially people with disabilities, they live in this world of a bubble, right? They've been surrounded by people their entire lives that want to protect them from the outside world, which is not to say it's a bad thing, but it's okay to get dirty, man. It's okay to bleed a little bit. It's okay to struggle. That's what makes you stronger. That's what makes you tougher. That's what makes you a better person. Struggle equals strength. I don't care what anybody says.
Stix, if folks want to reach out to you, fans, if they want to connect with you, if bookers want to get in touch with you, what's the best way everyone can reach Stix?
So, email is stix92@gmail.com. That's stix92@gmail.com. Facebook is Ken Stix, Stix Ray, Ray. It's just my name. And then Instagram is Stixman92. And I don't really use Twitter, but I have one, but I don't really use it. So Instagram, Facebook, and email are probably the best ways to get a hold of me.
Good stuff. His name is Stix. He's the voice, or one of the voices, I should say, of Go Wrestle, indie promotion out of Florida. On top of that, he's an inspiration. Stix, thanks for joining us this week. We got to get you back on, especially when the Boston Bad Boy is here.
Oh, man, you know what? He didn't show up today, man. He's a little scared of me, I think. I think he's intimidated by what I can do, and he didn't want to be in the building, which I don't blame him, because he sure does run his mouth a lot, but I don't want to hear a lot of meat behind it, you know what I'm saying?
Boston Bad Boy, I know you're listening. You heard that straight from Stix. Stix, thanks again, bro.
Oh, hey, man, real quick, every Friday night on Orange Avenue in Daytona Beach, 955 Orange Avenue, Go Wrestle, show starts at 8.
See, you can do it to a concert and just don't care, but one thing I do care about is Duke's wrestling. And I tell you what, the guy has nothing but love for the business.
That's right, Jack, we're back here. It's funny. I get a lot of feedback from you folks, and I appreciate it. Duke Loves Rasslin on Twitter and Facebook. Share your views on the show and give suggestions. You want to leave messages, the whole 9 yards. I always appreciate that. Once again, Duke Loves Rasslin on Facebook and Twitter. One of the comments that I've heard from a few folks, Duke, you're always so serious on the show, man. You especially at the end of the episode, you get real serious. And it's true. I absolutely do. I'm a silly guy at heart, but at the same time, I'm also a pretty serious guy. And even when I'm being silly, I get pretty serious. Guilty as charged. And I don't think anyone listening to this show at this point, I don't think that's a foreign concept to you. I think you pretty much understand what's going on here. And it's crazy because part of the reason why I get so serious about certain things is because they just don't make sense, and they warrant legitimate, well-thought discussion. They warrant challenge. I want you to think about some of these topics that are brought up on this show. I want you to think about if this makes sense. I want you to think about why we react a certain way to some people, and then if somebody else turns around and does the same exact thing, we react the complete opposite way. What is that? It's called bias. And we're all guilty of it, myself included. And, I do what I can to check myself on the bias. Easier said than done in most cases, but I'm conscious of it. And I think many of us out here are not conscious of the bias that they carry around and apply even to things that are meant to entertain them. When we talk about the pro wrestling business, there are facts that cannot be ignored, right? It's a fact that the pro wrestling business is a male-dominated business. It's a fact. We know that. It's dominated by men from the top all the way down, right? The owners of pro wrestling companies since the beginning of time have been men. And there have been some exceptions, but for the most part, it's men who control, they're the puppet masters. They control the whole show. The biggest superstars in the history of the business have been men. And that's not because women are incapable of running businesses. Of course they are. And that's not because women are not superstars and can't carry themselves well in the ring. Of course they can. But when you're used to the status quo, and when you benefit from a system that allows people like you to remain in power, it's easy to keep things the way that they've always been. The majority of the wrestling fan base are men. So it's no surprise that the people who run it, the people who benefit the most from it, they're going to maintain their positions and will only feature women as long as it doesn't hurt the men. We'll give you a couple of matches on WrestleMania, but we're not going to give you an equal amount of matches, despite the fact that we have the talent to pull it off. WWE. We'll give you the main event at WrestleMania, but it's not like we're going to push the fact that the women have the number one match as much as we're going to push all the male storylines going forward. I mean, goodness gracious, they put like pretty much half of the women on the main roster in one match the other night on SmackDown. Because they didn't want to feature all these women in separate segments like they were doing the men. And I'm going to focus on the WWE because that is the number one example in the pro wrestling industry that everybody listening to this show, no matter if you've been a lifelong wrestling fan or you just started watching or you don't watch at all, everybody knows the WWE. So it was very strange to me when I started seeing reports about Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks hasn't been on WWE TV since WrestleMania. And at WrestleMania, she and Bayley lost the women's tag team championships in a match that had like 4 different female tag teams, and the Iconics ended up winning. Sasha, she canceled a appearance that was supposed to happen on the Wendy Williams show. Said she had an emergency. There are photos of her vacationing with other folks in the Dominican Republic, including her husband. She earned the time off. It's all good. But even this week, she hasn't been back. And there have been a lot of wrestling news reports. And everybody's speculating. And then all these stories popping up. Sasha and Bayley were upset because they lost the tag team titles. They threw a tantrum backstage. They were laying on the floor, voicing their displeasure, their disappointment with having the titles taken off of them. That was the initial reports. Never mind the fact that Sasha Banks did an interview recently where she stated very clearly the Iconics deserve to be tag team champions because they're a real tag team. And if there's anyone that she would like to pass the torch to, it's the Iconics. The initial reports were trying to make it seem like they didn't want to lose the Iconics, as if the Iconics were below them or something. Okay, that's not true. I'll say that again for the fools in the back. That's not true. That's not how they feel. Sasha Banks is on record. How are you going to tell anybody how Sasha Banks feels about the Iconics when she's on record about how she feels about the Iconics? And she wasn't even prompted, really. She just expressed a feeling because that's how convicted she was about it. Huh. So then the story starts to evolve. Well, the WWE lied to them and told them that they were going to hold the tag team titles for a much longer period of time. That they were going to perform as tag team champs the first and only women's wrestling match in Saudi Arabia. And they were upset because the belts were taken off of them. And Sasha's been screwed, all over the place, and so she's upset. She demanded her release. And WWE gave her 2 weeks to figure it out, to hopefully change her mind. Okay. Okay. How much of that is true, I don't know. I will say that the WWE has jerked Sasha Banks around a lot. I mean, despite she has like 4 or 5 championship rings as a single, that amounts to like 3 months total. I mean, just really foolish stuff. They put the belt on her for a couple of weeks and they take it off right away. It's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And she's a talent, man. You know how you know Sasha Banks is a really talented person? And like she's really, really over? Trish Stratus. When Trish Stratus was brought back, she said the match that she wanted to have more than anything else was with Sasha Banks. And she said that her daughter looks up to Sasha Banks. She didn't say Charlotte Flair. She didn't say Becky Lynch. She didn't say Bayley, Nia Jax. She said Sasha Banks. Huh. You can't deny when the crowd reacts when Sasha comes out. She's a star, man. And she's earned it. She's had match of the year matches with Charlotte Flair, with Bayley, with Becky Lynch. She's a star. Her match with Ronda Rousey was damn good too. She's a star. Sasha Banks is a star. So if she is frustrated with the WWE, I get it. I don't disagree with that sentiment one bit. But it's interesting to see some of you out there on social media and how you react to it. Luke Harper, which I talked about earlier in the show. Luke Harper, he's sick and tired of being treated as somebody who is less than. He wants to take a chance. He wants to roll the dice on himself, right? So he asked for his release. Cody Rhodes did the same thing, for the record. And if you look at the majority of the comments put out there, overwhelmingly, they're supportive of these guys. Yet when Sasha Banks allegedly, and mind you folks, she has not come out publicly and said anything yet of the sort. So this is all speculation in that regard. But the reactions to even the speculation that Sasha Banks feels she deserves more than what she's getting. People are talking about her as if she was some bum. As if she was given everything that she's had, as opposed to earning it. As if she's not good enough to actually tell the company, this is unacceptable the way I'm being treated. I'm not going to put up with it. People saying crazy things like she should shut up and she's ungrateful and this and that. And you know what's interesting about that? The same thing happened to Naomi when she was asking about her spot. It's funny how this keeps happening. Huh? I don't hear people saying Dana Brooke is ungrateful. I'm just going to put that out there. That's a whole other story. And that's not me trying to throw Dana under the bus in any way, but she complains about her spot too. Who wouldn't? If you feel you're talented enough, and you've actually proven, some of these folks have, Sasha Banks has proven how talented and how much she's worth. She's headlined pay-per-views, multiple, and they've been successful. And she's had damn good matches. Great matches. Historic matches that will hold up the test of time. She has a right to say, hey, I don't like the way I'm being treated, and you know what? Let me out of my contract. Let me go make my bones somewhere else since you guys aren't going to do enough with me. So why the visceral reaction to that when it comes to Sasha or when it comes to Naomi or someone, but yet, Luke Harper, it's okay. Cody Rhodes, oh yeah, it's okay. When Shawn Michaels lost his smile, it was okay. But if Sasha Banks says it, then it's not okay? How does that work? How does that work? The bias is what bothers me, folks. And I'm just going to call it sexism. I'm not even going to talk about race. I'm just going to call this sexism. Women have to shut up, know their role, stay in their place. Meanwhile, the men can get upset and throw things and do all kinds of nonsense, and it's okay. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. Brock Lesnar has hissy fits all the time. He threw a belt at Vince McMahon. He's a lunatic, Brock, but it's okay. It's okay if Brock does that. But Jesus, God forbid if Ronda Rousey ever did that. Oof. There was actually reports that said that Rousey threw a belt at Stephanie McMahon after the main event at WrestleMania, which is garbage. That's just a bunch of baloney. Why would Ronda Rousey... First of all, Ronda Rousey wasn't the champion, so what belt is she going to throw at Stephanie McMahon? Becky Lynch walked out with both belts. That's first of all. Second of all, what would Stephanie McMahon have done to Ronda Rousey that she wants to throw a belt at her? That's just foolish. And shout out to Ronda. She's going to be starting a family. She's taking some time off. Good for her. I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. Some of the folks out there, it's like you can't even help yourself. And then when somebody points it out, you act as if they were wrong for pointing it out. You're being sexist. Sasha Banks is legitimately one of the top superstars of our time. And she's not being featured that way. She's not. Sasha Banks should be in the middle of one of those single title hunts there for the entire year. She's that damn good. And her and Bayley are not a tag team. You can't put two people together and just say, hey, they're a tag team. No, it's not going to work long term. It's not how it works. A team is legitimately you look at the Usos, that's a team. Okay? That's a team. New Day, they were put together. They weren't even put together. They put themselves together because they legitimately wanted to be a team, a unit. People who would prefer to work together as opposed to work by themselves. That's a team. Sheamus had his back issues. He needed some help, and Cesaro had more success in tag teams. That's a team. They committed to one another. They were serious about making it work together. Sasha and Bayley didn't want to be a damn tag team. Are you kidding me? Come on, stop that. You know that. Sasha said it herself. I don't even have to. You don't take my word for it. Google it. That's the other thing. Some of you fools out there really crack me up with your sources. We got sources. You don't have any damn sources. Shut up. What are you talking about? What source do you have? If Sasha Banks didn't say, what source do you have? Stop that. Nonsense. Sources say you're a jerk. How about that? Huh? How about that? That's what sources told me. I got inside sources, Jack. They told me you're a jerk. The women can express that they are being mistreated, that they feel they're not being valued. It's okay. And even if it's not true, it's okay. That's how they feel. So if they want to go somewhere else and do their thing, who are you to sit there and complain about that? Why? Why would you complain about that? Oh, they're no good. Let her go. She's so ungrateful. Ungrateful about what? Stop that. And they're supposed to be independent contractors, right? They should be able to go and do business elsewhere. But we know that's not the case. Not with these contracts, boy. Whew. Treat you like an employee, but they don't want to give you all the benefits of one. That's a whole other story. Don't get me started, man. I don't know what's going on with Sasha Banks. What I do know is she is undervalued in the WWE. And she could do a hell of a lot more anywhere else. So either they need to commit to her or let her go. And she can literally set an entire business on fire anywhere else and bring that company up to a higher standard. Fact. Since the WWE doesn't understand what they have with her. It's almost as if they took Ronda Rousey and put her in the spot that Sasha should have been in. And some people are going to say, well, you're crazy, man. You know, Ronda Rousey, no, I'm not saying they're the same wrestler or they'd have the same storylines. Come on, fool. But I'm saying some of those opportunities, Sasha Banks has the credentials where she should have been in the main event at WrestleMania, for instance. Don't get me started. Of course she should have been. Of course she should have been. But it's okay for Luke Harper to say he wants out, or Cody Rhodes. Shawn Michaels lost his smile. It's okay. But even an accusation that hasn't even been proven, that Sasha is taking issue with the company, suddenly she's ungrateful. You guys, you kill me. And it's men. That's what it is. It's men. It's you male wrestling fans who, quite frankly, don't know what you're talking about. And you look down upon women. You look down upon other folks, and it's really just disgusting. Some of you bums out there will wax poetic about quote-unquote jobbers and who cares about a jobber and all this other nonsense. It's like, hey, buddy, they're enhancement talent, number one. Jobber is a derogatory term. And if you're not in the business, you shouldn't even be using it. But even more importantly than that, somebody has to lose. The person losing the match is just as important as the person winning the match because you got to make that person look good. That's how you build a star. Somebody has to sacrifice to make that person look good. It's an important role, man. It takes a lot. You know what a bad match looks like. And suddenly the person that you want to put the shine on doesn't look so shiny because the match was terrible. You know what that looks like. So when the match looks good, you know what that looks like too, don't you? So stop disrespecting people who are not being positioned as the main event, who are not being positioned as a title holder, who are being positioned as the person to make everybody else look good. That is okay. It's an important ingredient in the business. The majority of what you eat it doesn't taste good without salt. You need the salt. That's the base of the entire dish. The salt. That's what enhancement talents are. There's salt. Give me a break. I don't know, man. I see some of this stuff and I just shake my head. And it's funny because the Boston Bad Boy, who, he took the day off to read the Mueller report. That's a whole other story. I'm going to bust his chops next week about that. But the Boston Bad Boy talks about some of you guys and how ridiculous you are. And I try to defend it. But then you go and make me look like a fool. When you trash Sasha Banks for knowing her worth. And Naomi for knowing her worth. And speaking up about it. It's like you make me look like a fool. I can't defend you when you do foolish things like that. Stop that. Ugh. I don't know what's going on with Sasha Banks. I just know that wherever she ends up, whether it's with the WWE still, or whether it's somewhere else, I am going to support her. Because she's an amazing talent. Period. And if you ain't down with that, then hey, you know what the Road Dogg says. Get 2 words for you. That's it for this week, folks. Thank you to Stix. I got to get out of here. Join us next week. We'll have some more excitement there. In fact, I think I'm going to have to get a lady's voice on this show next week. I got to get some more perspective. Smarten some of you listeners up here because I tell you, sexism is getting out of control, man. Oof. Take it away, Tony Schiavone.
Mr. Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Wrestling.